So we recently had a question in the community about how can we automate loading in sample HTML for example newsletters and have our outputs configured with the results given to us in HTML format with our brand logo and colors and so forth, which is a pretty great question, and it can definitely save you a lot of time if you are creating a lot of emails. So rather than having to do the formatting after you've created the email and load it into your, say your ConvertKit account, then you can just send it in via HTML and fully ready to go. So there's a few different ways that I would automate this. I'm going to use AI just because I think that is going to be probably the faster option. It may not be the one that gets it 100% right, but it probably get it done in the quickest way possible. And I'm just going to go through my thought process as I create this. I've not really thought about it. I have thought about it for 30 seconds. But I've not played around with it at all. And I'm just going to show you all of the different ways that I would approach this when making adjustments to the content operation system or the content automation operating system. So if you haven't seen it yet, then there'll be a link below this video where you can see this entire platform and how it works so that you can automate your content creation and operate 3 to 5 times faster. So if you want to check that out, definitely check it out after this video. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take this particular email here, which is being generated by AI, and we're going to configure it so that it gives us a full newsletter that is ready to be published immediately. So remember, the things that we're looking to achieve here is we want our global brand logo and we want our colors built into the process. So let's start with that first. So let's just go brand logo. And we just need to use a single line. And basically what I'm going to do is just grab our brand logo from the website and make that the default. Let's just go open image in new tab. So we're going to make this the default field when someone creates a new field. So it'll automatically drop in there all of the time now, just by creating the default field in the Airtable field there. Yeah, for the ones that are existing, then we just need to paste it in. So that now when we do start creating the automation, then we can just reference this field. It's going to pull the logo from here every single time. So that's the first step. The next step is now we need our brand colors. So if we just do brand colors, I'm going to make this one a long text, and we could make it a single text and have this as a default field as well. So I'm just going to go follow the brand colors. Let's just go, we'll actually put it in the prompt. So we don't even need to do that. We're just going to go H1 and then you'll put in your color, H2, put in your color, H3 if you have H3 headings, and put in your color there. So we keep our color in Canva. So if I just go into Canva, go to brand kits, grab the color, the main color that we use for this brand, which is that one. And we don't usually use H3, so I'll just remove that. But I'm going to put the brand colors in here. And then when we create an automation, we'll say in the prompt, these are our brand colors. And then that way the automation will always reference our brand colors from here as well. So since that's not created yet, then we'll just do that. Next is what was next? Let me just come back. So we want our brand logo, we want our colors, and then we want to give it an example. So I don't have an example, but I'll show you where to put that. And in fact, we could reference it in case you want to change. So when I'm creating these Airtable fields and my automations, I try to give as much control to Airtable as possible when it comes to creating automations. Because if you don't give Airtable the control, then in order to make a change to any of your prompts or any of your automations, you have to go inside make.com or whatever automation platform you're actually using and make the change in there, which can be very slow. Whereas if we use variables and we have all of the variables set in Airtable, then we have so much more control. So what I would say here is I would just say example HTML email, and then I'll just go create field. So let's even try that. So let's just open up this email here. So it's an example of an email that we create. I'm just going to copy all of this and see if I can get the HTML just by doing this. So I'm not sure if those borders will remain. Let's just see if in here. So all I've done is just opened up online HTML editor.dev. So you don't really need to know HTML in order to build these types of things. I think that's where so many people get lost, is like they think they need to know coding and stuff like that. There's tools online everywhere in order to do basically anything. So you just have to be curious, and you just need to find your way around the internet and create the things that you want to create. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to figure out if these things, if they're real borders around these elements here. So I'm just trying to find the border tool. Oops, don't know what I did there, which I'm not sure. I could actually go and have a look and see in here. So yeah, you can see where it says border equals 0. So it doesn't look like it is. It just looks like, I know very little HTML. So anyway, this is an example of what a HTML email could look like. So I'm just going to switch it back, and we'll just run with this and we'll see how we go, hey? So let's give this as the example HTML file. So that all you need to do is, once you have HTML for your email, then you just provide your example here, and then I'll show you how to reference that inside the automation as well. So we have all of these things now that we want to use in order to take this AI promo email, this one here, and then turn it into a final HTML file. So these are the three inputs that we need to send into our automation. Now we need to create the fields in order to use inside the automation. So first one I'm going to write is AI status, or it could be called automation status for email HTML, let's just call it. And then we'll call this pre-AI, AI writing, ... AI complete. Change the color to make it very obvious. So any new field will always be a default option of pre-AI. Next, we want to choose our AI model. And all I'm going to do actually is copy this from another workflow. So I have all of these AI models here. So I'm just going to copy that and see if we can get this to drop in. Sometimes it won't work. Nah, it didn't work. So anyway, so we'll call this AI status, AI model. It's called the trigger. And this one's a single select. And then we just need the AI code here. So let's just grab one code from another workflow. So we'll just use the OpenAI GPT-4o for this example, but you can go through, and I'm assuming that you're using the open router like we do, and then that's what we're going to feed into the automation. So I'm just going to add that one there. We'll call this AI model. Okay. Then we need a trigger. So this is trigger HTML editor, and this one's a button. And here we'll go create HTML email, and then we'll go and add a concatenate field here, which will grab a webhook from the automation when I begin to set that up. And then we need a final output field. So we'll go AI output, HTML email, and that should be pretty much it. So just to recap, before you even begin to think about automating things, we need to make sure that we have the Airtable fields 100% exactly how we want them. We don't want to begin automating things too quickly, because that's when you're just giving yourself way too much work. It's the same as if you're creating any type of interface or dashboard. You always want to leave that to the very last thing after you've been using the platform for a little while, and making sure that you're getting the outputs, or everything is structured in a way that is very easy for you to use, and you're getting the right outputs for the work that you're doing. Otherwise, you can spend ages building these automations and interfaces, and then once you make a change inside your Airtable account, then you have to rebuild everything again anyway. So you always make sure that you get this part solid first, and then you move on to the other parts of the workflow in creating the automation. So that's basically what I've done here. Now we're just going to create the automation. So I'm just going to give it a name first. Always best practice to give things really good names so that you can understand them. So that's actually a COS for Content Automation Operating System. And then it is the all emails workflow. And then it is creating HTML emails. So that's the name of our workflow. We start with a webhook and we go custom webhook and we give the webhook a name, then the similar CLS emails, HTML email, and then we'll click save. From here, we'll copy that address to the clipboard and then we'll come back into our Airtable account. And where we've created this concatenate field, we just want to change this to the actual webhook. So from the quotation mark there to the question mark, then that's where we want to paste it in. So basically this formula is saying join the webhook with the record ID. The record is just the line across in Airtable there. And it sets the record ID automatically using that variable. So we'll just hit save. Now, as soon as we add a webhook, and this is where a lot of people get lost, is they don't run it once. So you want to run it once and feed that information into Math.com so you can continue building your automation with a record in there. Otherwise, a lot of the times it won't work. And then that's where people get stuck and confused because they wonder why it's not working. So now that we have that record, we can begin to now do the rest of the workflow. So since we've sent a record into Make, we can now get that record from Airtable. So we choose the Airtable get a record, we choose the base that we are working in, and then the table that we're working in, which is all promo emails, and then the record ID, we map into the record ID section. So basically, we're going to run this one again so that we can test each part of the workflow as we're going. So it should now pulls in the record ID. Then now we have all of this information here that we can work with. So what's next? Next, we would want to run it through the AI. But before that, what I always do as I've got more experience in this is I set some variables. Because what I find is when you set variables, if you do ever need to go back and edit Airtable, then you don't have to rebuild the automations again because you've got your variables through the rest of the automation. You just need to come in and change the variables. Secondly is because I do share these automations with people in my community, then if I don't set these variables, they have to remap every single part of the process as well, which makes it so much longer. So for example, when I first put out my very first templates, it used to take like 6 or 7 hours for me to set up. Whereas now that exact same workflow takes about 2 hours, 2.5 hours to set up because of these variables. So that's how important it is. So what do we need in our automations? First, we need the actual email. So we'll call it the AI promo email. And that'll be this field here. Oops. We want to then probably grab the promo email subject line, singular. Next, we then need our brand logo, which is this one here. Next, we need HTML email example, which is this one here. We need our AI model, which is this one here. And we need our brand colors, which is this one here. So I think that's about all that we need for now. And what I also do is I update the record. So the same record that we put in here, I want to update this record to say that that this automation is running. So we just need to go and open the base, open the table, and then set our record ID here. And then we want to go to our AI status and then change this to AI writing. So that now when we click this button in here, and let's do an example. So when we click this button in here, it tells us that the AI is now writing. So the automation is now running. It tells us that it's working. So that's why we do that. Now we get into the actual automation part of the process. So you could add this into OpenAI directly or whatever AI you're using. We use OpenRouter so we can have access to basically any model that we want. So OpenRouter is a premium plugin, but if you are in the community, you get 20% off of that. You'll find that inside the community. And basically it works just like any other AI module, except the big difference being we can map in what AI model we want to use. So we already set this in our variables and we're just going to map in the AI model, which in this case, we're going to be using OpenAI's GPT-4o so that we can have full control over what model we use from this tab here. So if we wanted to use Claude, then we can add the Claude code in here, or Perplexity or Llama or Gemini or whatever it is. We have full control by building our workflows this way, which is pretty cool. So that's ready to go there. So we're going to have some advanced settings in a moment, but let's begin first with our messages, which is the content and the role. So this is the message that we're going to send into OpenAI's ChatGPT. So first, let's start with the example. So if you're ever providing examples of how you want the system to react, then you would give it an assistant prompt. So the assistant prompt in this case is going to be, here's an example of the output I want you to create. And then we map in our HTML email example there. So that way, anything that you put in here now, it's going to reference this and it's going to get as close to this as possible for the new email that you're creating. Next, I then want to then create the actual user prompt. So you have your assistant and you have your system. So system is more like a context type of prompt. User is more of your specific prompt that you want it to follow. So what are we trying to do here? Basically, we're trying to take this promo email and we're going to turn it into HTML. So this is where prompt writing, sometimes it requires a little bit of, firstly, you need a bit of experience, which just comes from doing it over and over again. But secondly, it can potentially be down to just a little bit of trial and error. So basically what I'm going to say here is, so there was a paper that told you from Stanford maybe, which told you how to write prompts. And they said that it's always great to give context and then instruction. So I write pretty much all of my prompts like this now, which is give it some context of what you're trying to do and then give it the specific task. So I am writing, so I have an email that I am ready to upload directly into my CRM. However, I want it to be formatted into HTML first using just like my example. Your task is to create a HTML email using the following details. One is our brand logo. Two is our brand colors. Three is, this is the content for the email. So now we just need to map in our variables of these three particular things. So AI promo email, let's just go for subject line. We don't really have a space for subject line in HTML, but so we don't even really need it. So I don't know why I put that there. But anyway, if you have a place for it, then you could definitely do it. So brand logo, brand colors, and then I'll just go H1 equals, heading 1, H2 equals heading 2, and so forth. This is the content of the email. What I would also put in here, just knowing what I know about AI, is that it doesn't need to provide any extra context. So your output should just be the final HTML. You do not need to describe it or add any context to the output. So I think this will work. So I'm just going to click OK. So that should now run through there. Then the final thing left to do is send it back into Airtable. And a quick little hack is if you've already set up an update a record Airtable once, then you don't need to set it up again. Just clone the previous one. And then you come down, you'll change the AI status to AI complete. And then we would put the output of the content from OpenRouter in the AI output HTML. So by rights, that should actually run and operate correctly. So let's give it a test. So we're just going to go run once and we're going to go create HTML and see if this provides the output that we want. So it's already run through the automation here. It's running through OpenRouter at this point, and then it's provided the output here. So let's have a look and we'll just go expand email. So it's provided all of this here. It looks like it may not have got it exactly correct. Anyway, let's have a look. So I'll just copy that and I would go, the best way for me to do this is go to email templates and HTML email. So email templates, new email templates, go down to the bottom, import code, create HTML template, paste the full code here, and then we'll just call it test and we'll see what this looks like. So yeah, it hasn't really got it correct just yet. So we need to give it more information around what we want in the footer. It did get the logo correct. It's used a H1 there for some reason. So it didn't exactly get it right. So, but if we look at, yeah, if it didn't really get it right, like I would want to add more information here. So what I would actually do is maybe trial firstly changing the AI assistant. So let's just add this as a user prompt first. In the next prompt, so here's an example of the output I want you to create in the next prompt. Take note of the extra links under the logo and also the content in the footer. Your output is for this brand and should match exactly. So this is where AI is much faster than, there are other ways we could build this too. So other ways that I thought of is you could, I think if in tools potentially, maybe not tools, but like there's a HTML editor, right? Here it is. So your text parser module. So you can create HTML elements in here, get elements from HTML, HTML to text, and so forth. There's other tools that you could add in here as well. So like there are other options in order to turn your writing, your output from your AI into HTML. But I figured if we just use AI, then it allows us to make changes so much faster, like what I've just done here in this prompt. So I think we should get much closer if we try again. So let's just delete this out so we're not going to get confused, and let's just go try again. All right, so let's try it again. It's added some extra stuff up here, which I asked it not to, but let's see. So let's copy this one now, come back into our HTML editor, and we'll click save. And then we go preview. And this one's much closer. So it's added the links at the top. It's added the same footer down below. So that's how quickly we can fix up that particular prompt when it's not going our way. So let me just turn on the light. It's getting a bit dark in here. So yeah, and that's basically how you would do it. Now, of course, if your example has H1, H2 headings in here, then it would be so much easier for you to format, and maybe you need to add different sections in there and do a little bit of formatting, a little bit of testing to get it exactly right for how you want it. But that's basically the workflow of how you take an idea, begin to create it, test the idea, make some iterations, test the idea again until you get it right. So hopefully this video was helpful. I know it was a longer one, it was a bit more off the cuff, but if you are interested in how this entire dashboard works and you've not seen it yet, then check out the video right here. See you next time.